beautiful wife Sharon, and your Sunday is coming, so I'd say start this and then eat. Um, she got a little booked up over there. Anyway, Shawn, he is the host of Vegas Supernatural. It's a weekly show. He has phenomenal guests, including us at one time or another. Actually, Linda, and a gentleman who, his name is Matt Sully. Phenomenal man. He actually is the lead singer for the Bruce in the USA tour. And he's been doing this for 15 years and apparently had some incredible stories to share. And I really wish he could have been here tonight with us, but he's not. Anyway, I'm going to go ahead and hand the floor over to Rev Shawn and Sharon. And thank you so much for coming. You guys have mean so much. And there you go. The floor is yours. And thank you so much.
I brought notes. I'm getting old. I'm Rev Shawn Whittington, ghostbegone.biz, my beautiful wife Sharon. We've been a team working together since we met and got married a little over 14 years ago. We just celebrated our 14th wedding anniversary last week. I'm also the host of Vegas Supernatural, and I appreciate everybody coming out. I brought some bumper stickers. And if you don't want to hang it on your car, you don't have to. A lot of people don't want to hang numbers together. I got one for you too, brother. Thank you very much. And next time you're coming on the show with your sister.
Is this a radio show?
Yes.
It's online. Online? Oh, okay, great.
So.
Let's stick this on local squad car.
Yes, please. Sharon, I couldn't do what I do without her. She is a near-death experienced survivor. And what age were you, honey, when that happened to you? What age were you when that happened to you?
21.
21. Died of a severe asthma attack. To this day, clearly remembers crossing over to heaven, seeing all her family that had passed on before her, beckoning her to come, welcoming her. And she heard a voice tell her that it's not your time. And they shot her back. And so he's not done with her. She's on a mission, but she came back from that experience with an extreme sensitivity to spirit. So I can't do what I do without her, and I'm blessed to have met her, and we make a great team together. We will come back and do this where she will have the floor tonight. My message that I wanted to get across to you guys tonight is a little lengthy, so I was going to hog the floor tonight and let Sharon speak it another night. And I don't know the message that I want to get out to you guys tonight. I think each and every one of you individually will take something personal from it, and that'll be whatever whatever this story means to you. I come from a long line of spiritual warriors. We've traced my family back to the mid-1200s in England, and it was a town called Whiten, and the founders were the Whitens, and shortly after that they changed the name to Whittington. It's Whittington, not Whittingham.
Oh, sorry,
okay.
I am so sorry.
It's okay. They changed the name of the village to Whittington and changed their names to Whittington. And we're not sure of the order. It was probably an order similar to that of the Knights Templars, but probably not that exact order, that had possession of the Holy Grail. They brought it to this village where it's been passed down through my family that the Holy Grail was buried under an old church there. Now, how many hundreds of years have passed since there? Apparently the ruins of the church are still there. The secrecy of the location of the church has been kept secret. But back in the day, back in the day, a priest with the last name Whittington smuggled the Grail out of England and brought it to Mary's land, Maryland. And it is buried somewhere in Maryland. So the story goes through my family. My father, mother, they both passed on, rest in peace, you guys, and they're here. My mom's Brazilian. She's from Cruz das Almas, Brazil, which is in the north of Bahia. north of Brazil, up in the mountains. Cruz de Zam stands for City of Crosses. Every block, every intersection there has several churches on it. They held a record at one time, I believe in Guinness, for having the most churches in one town. Very spiritual people. The veil there between the dead and the living, there is none. The dead just walk there as if they're still living their lives among the living, and the living come to accept it, and it's not a big deal. Everybody in my family but me have been there, visited. I feel bad that I didn't get to go before my mom passed. That's on the to-do list before I pass. Hopefully Sharon will accompany me there. But she met my father after World War II. He was a 25-year retired Master Chief, served in World War II, served in Korea, Purple Heart recipient, Naval Intelligence. When they bombed Pearl Harbor, he was actually in the Philippines at the time. So the Navy knew that the next stop of the Japanese was going to be, and Linda, I know your heritage is half Japanese. I mean, no disrespect, honey, I love you. They knew the Japanese was going to the Philippines next, so all naval personnel was ordered off the island. Many injured people couldn't get on ships to get out of there, so the orders were, if you couldn't walk aboard a ship, you couldn't leave. So my dad left many friends behind. That haunted him all his life. He got on this ship, several hours out to sea, they engaged the enemy. It was the USS Pecos. They were sunk. He went into the water, one of the last people to go into the water. He was the radio man, so he's doing SOS, our location, what has happened to us. They go into the water. Little did they know that all the ships closest to them that could come and pick up survivors were ordered by the Navy not to go back for survivors because it was too hot with the enemy. The real hero of the story is Captain Abernathy of another ship, and God forgive me for forgetting the name of that ship. He ignored orders. He gave orders for his ship to turn around and go back for survivors. So my dad's in the water, I would have to say probably mid-afternoon one day, and in the water hanging onto a piece of wood the rest of that night till the following morning. So now you have to understand he's deathly ill at this time because you're bobbing up and down in the ocean. There's gasoline, oil, God knows what else floating around on the top of the water. He's ingesting a lot of that. So he's not doing very well. I don't know how close to death, but he's not doing very well. So sunrise comes and they hear a ship coming, but they can't see because it's all foggy. There's fog over the ocean. All he knows is that they think it's an enemy vessel coming, so they figure this is it. When the ship gets close enough, the fog miraculously clears and they see that it's a United States naval vessel. So it's a mad dash. All the sailors that survive, that are still floating in the water, are swimming to the ship. My dad's not strong enough to make it. He knows I'm not going to make it. He's doing his best. He tells me to hang on and kick with his feet towards the ship, but he's not going to make it. And he hears the captain give orders over the loudspeaker, make way to get underway, and he hears the engines kick on and the propellers kick on. He finds a rope dangling in the water, floating. He grabs a hold of this rope and he decides, they may drag me back dead, but they're not going to leave me here, they're going to drag me back. So he wraps the rope in between his legs, around his body, around his neck, all around. And he actually feels the ship start to get underway and him being drugged. And he hears a deep voice say, there's one more over the side. And he looks up and a very large, muscular sailor jumps over the ship and hanging on with one arm, he reaches down and grabs my dad by the scruff of his neck, picks him out of the water, tosses him onto the deck where my dad passes out and was probably out for 24, 48 hours, deathly ill, laying on the deck of the ship. The corpsman made a makeshift tent over him to try and take care of him. He came to under the tent. They got him well enough to get onto his feet, and he decided to scour the ship and find the sailor that saved his life. And he did that. He scoured that ship, talked to everybody. Not only did no one on the ship remember seeing the incident, they don't even remember seeing my dad get on the ship. They just know one minute he wasn't there, the next minute he was. So my dad knew the rest of his life that was his guardian angel that saved him. And we all knew that. Growing up and him telling us the story, we all knew that. He goes to Brazil after World War II, meets, falls in love with, and marries my mom. Has my 2 older sisters there, who are both extremely sensitive, just like my wife. Magnets for spirit. My mom's a magnet for spirit, was a magnet for spirit, now is with them. She gave me a speech and tells me the story. They moved back from Brazil to a naval base, a secret naval base in Northern California, where my dad is stationed. My dad goes out to sea, and my mom's there, barely speaks any English, just mostly Portuguese. Has my 2 sisters, I believe one's 8 years older than me and one's 10 years older than me, and I haven't been born yet, so they're probably like 4 and 5. My dad comes back, his ship comes back from being out at sea, and my mom gets this call from the doctor of the base. Your husband has contracted spinal meningitis, encephalitis, and he will not make it to morning. So if you want to see him alive again, you must come to the base hospital right now. He's out of his mind. We've got him strapped to a bed. Get here as soon as you can. Someone will have to tell me if you know this. I know back then it was a death sentence. I don't know if they have a cure for it now.
I think so, but I had it as well. It was
Really?
2 weeks old, yeah.
What it was is that they didn't have a cure, but some people did survive it. They just had to go through the the symptoms.
Back then?
Yeah, back then, and then automatically it would be like washed through their body in a way. It's
So
like
for them so he must have had it pretty bad for them to tell.
it's like if you get attacked by a black widow, they prefer that you go through the symptoms before they give you the vaccination, because once you get the vaccination for a black widow bite, they can't give it to you anymore after that, because your body's already become immune to the vaccine itself.
Well, you can imagine what she must have been going through. So she gets a neighbor to watch my sisters, gets a ride somehow to the hospital, but on her way to the hospital, she makes a stop at the church, the Catholic church on the base. Goes in there and prays to St. Jude to petition on her behalf to God to save my father's life. Gives St. Jude the rundown, you know. You know the rundown, St. Jude, but can't leave me here with my 2 little daughters. I don't speak language, strange country, whatever. She makes a promise that if you spare my husband's life, I will from that day forward crawl on my hands and knees whenever I go to church. From the front door to the pew, from the pew to receive communion, back to the pew and out. She also made a promise to have another child. Well, she was warned not to have another child because the birth of my 2nd oldest sister almost killed her when she was told not to. So she goes to the hospital. My dad's passed out. He's in a coma. He's tied to the bed. She falls asleep at his bedside, wakes up in the morning, and there's my dad just staring at her. He's tied to the bed. And he says, Edith, what am I doing in the hospital bed here? You know, why am I strapped to this bed? My mom freaks out, yells for the nurses and the doctors. They come running in. They're all surprised at what had happened. And maybe this is where this comes in, because they couldn't find any trace of the disease in him anymore.
Yeah, after a while, the body will get rid of it.
So she did keep her promise. From that day forward, whenever she went to Mass, she did it on her hands and knees until she was too old and physically unable to do it any longer. And she did have another child. Well, she had my brother 10 years after me, but my mom always called me the miracle child. It used to make my sisters upset and jealous, but it is what it is. So I remember getting the speech when I was about 10 years old. They knew something was different about me, and they said, you're going to see a lot of spirit in your life. Don't be scared of them. They're just people like you and me. They just don't have a body any longer. And most likely, if they're showing themselves to you, there's a reason. Ask them what they want. What can I do to you? How can I help you? You know, why are you showing yourself to me? I thought that was, at the time, I'm 10 years old, pretty out there. But it wasn't long after that that I had my first real hardcore experience. My sisters were hardcore flower children hippies back in the day. And they rented a home. I don't know if you ever seen the movie The Burbs, but they rented this old home in Reseda, and the neighborhood was relatively new, but they had this old Victorian mansion-looking type home standing out by itself that they didn't demolish in the corner of the neighborhood that my sisters rented out with a bunch of other hippies. And my mom and dad never let me go over there because they knew my sisters were always smoking pot, getting drunk, doing God knows whatever, taking LSD, which in my naval days I've done it all. But I went there to spend one night. My parents went out of town and they said, okay, take it easy on them, don't go crazy. So they didn't have a party there, but they had a lot of friends over. And I remember sleeping in the sleeping bag that first night. And I was woken by one of her friends coming down the stairs, and she was dancing down the stairs, this really beautiful hippie girl that then I started realizing I didn't see her at the party. And she came down, she danced across the floor, we caught eye-to-eye contact, she danced and disappeared right into the fireplace. I screamed, I freaked out, I ran upstairs, jumped in bed with my sisters, they gave me the speech again, there you go. And I did see that spirit later that day before I went home. And what she told me was that she had passed from an overdose before my sisters had moved into the house. And I just told her, you know, there's no judgment in heaven. Go. Wherever this light is, I'm told you can see a light. Wherever this light is, go to it because there's no judgment over there. And she went. So fast forward, I'm pushing 60 now. Many ghost-busting cases over the years. Nothing too